you have a few technique options for your portfolio project. Remember, we are going to be making silhouettes. You can do a transfer. Remember, that is when you take your image that you printed and you color on the back. Now, I would use regular pencil if my positive space is going to be white. So, I colored on the back with my pencil, and then I'm going to put it on my white paper. You're not going to be able to get any more black or white paper, so I would put your picture carefully, maybe cut it smaller so that you're taking up the least amount of space. And then you are just going to trace the outline of your figure. When you're done tracing, you should move your printed paper away and you will be left with the drawn silhouette. You might have to do a little cleaning up if something didn't line up the right way, if your paper moved. When we do the black paper, you're going to do the exact same thing, except instead of coloring with the regular pencil, you are going to color with a white pencil on the back. And these look like this, and they will be found on the supply table. So again, you would do the exact same thing, put your image down on your paper. I used a pink colored pen instead of tracing with a pencil, and it works just the same. So if a color would be easier to see what you've traced, I would do that. So take the image away and you are left with the print. Our next step is going to be to cut these two silhouettes out using our X-Acto knives. When you're ready to cut your silhouettes out, you're going to get a cutting board. Yours might be gray, and an X-Acto knife. Yours might be red, it might be all silver. It doesn't matter which one you get. You're going to have a few different options for cutting out. You can either cut out your image and use it like a window, putting, in this case, a black colored paper behind, or you can cut out your figure and glue it on the opposite colored paper. So for our white one, we're going to do the window technique, and then we'll do the cutout technique on the black paper. So for the window technique, it doesn't matter if you mess up your figure because you're going to be throwing that part away. So when you're cutting, if you have a hard angle, it's okay to go past the line in the figure, and I will show you that. For the white paper, we're going to use the window technique. Like I said, when you are cutting with the X-Acto knife, you do not want to hold it like a pencil and cut at an angle. You want to keep the blade straight up and down, and you are going to put your finger on the top and push down. You're trying to cut with the tip of the blade. Make sure you're pushing hard enough that you're going all the way through the paper. We do not want any fuzzy edges. Now, if you get to an angle that's hard, for example, it'd be really hard for me to turn the X-Acto knife all the way around to cut her tutu out. Because it doesn't matter what happens to this inside window, because we're going to throw it away, I can just go up a little further. I'm going to turn the paper. I can go up past the tutu line to get that angle. I'm either turning my hand or I'm going to turn the paper. You can see over here where I have turned the blade and cut into the figure multiple times. The white paper is very thick, so I would make sure you're going through all the way. Pick up little pieces as you go, carefully. You can take things out as you go. For example, this little part of her arm, I went ahead and cut that off. Like I said, we don't need it anymore, so I'm just gonna put it over there to the side and continue cutting. Here's my progress. I just have one little part to finish up. So my silhouette is cut out, but you can see these fuzzy edges. We want all of our edges to be nice and clean and crisp, like this edge of the arm. So what I'm gonna do is just go back in and clean up, cut the fuzz away. Now, even though I've cut away the fuzzy edges, I still have these pencil marks. And we have two options. We can either very carefully erase the pencil marks or flip the image over. If we flip the image over, we know that it'll be completely clean. Now, if you do this, you have to go ahead and plan that all of your figures are going to be facing the opposite directions. So be careful if you have any writing. Again, if you do the window, I would draw everything out before you start cutting because you can't slide anything over. So what you would do is put a black paper behind it to have a silhouette. You can do the same thing with the window technique by drawing on black paper and cutting that out and putting white paper behind it. It does not matter which way you do it. Let's go over to the silhouette drawn on the black paper. So this technique, we are going to be cutting out the figure from the background. So instead of messing up the figure like we did in the window one, we can mess up the background if we need to, because we want the figure to be perfect when we cut it out. So you're going to do the same thing. Use your X-Acto knife. Make sure you're holding it the correct way. You are going to cut out your figure or your environment, your positive space you're cutting out. So I'm here at the tutu again. It's going to be hard for me to completely turn the X-Acto knife around. So I can either turn the paper or I can go in from the background and meet my other mark. Again, right here it'd be hard for me to turn my hand completely, so I could either turn the paper or go out into the background a little bit. And note how I put my figure on the very edge of my paper. Again, we aren't going to get another piece of paper, so you're going to have to be able to fit all of your pieces on the one paper. So I would not leave a lot of room in between. So I finished cutting my ballerina out. So as you can see, I can take it out of that window. And we don't need this anymore. Now I have all these white lines. I can't really erase them, so I'm going to flip the ballerina over. Now I'm going to investigate. I have a few fuzzy edges that I will need to get rid of. And clean them up a little bit. On the white paper. Like so, you are going to pick which technique you would like to do, either the cutout and assemble or the window. And remember that I ended up flipping the opposite way. Keep that in mind when you are planning out your composition. If you would like to use both techniques, you can. I suggest doing the window cutouts for the things that are going to be smaller, or maybe the environment, and then you can overlap the cutouts on top and adjust them accordingly. The cutouts are obviously a little bit more flexible than the windows. So keep that in mind when you are approaching your project. Again, if you're doing all window cutouts for your techniques, you need to get everything drawn before you start cutting. If you're going to do a combination, you can cut your windows out as you go or draw them all. It's up to you. If you're doing cutouts, you're going to cut everything before you glue it onto your other paper. Another option you have with this project is to cut out your reference photo and then trace it onto your new paper. This is particularly helpful if you could not flip your image on the computer and you need it to face a different way. So you will just take your image, use the X-Acto knife, and cut the printed image out. You will not have to use as much pressure because the computer paper is a lot thinner than the other paper. Again, I want my figure to be perfect because I'm going to trace it, so I can turn the paper and mess up the negative space around it if I need to. You can cut pieces from the background, from the negative space out as you go, because again, you don't need them. And if you have a detailed area, like this part of the tutu, I just left a little bit of negative space around it, and I'm gonna do that part last. I finished cutting out the printed image, and then I can just put it on whichever color I want and trace the image normally. So if I wanted to flip this, I wanted the ballerina to go the other way, I can easily do that and just trace this way and then cut that out and either use the cutout and assemble it on another paper or use it as a window.